The Cleveland Guardians fall to the Cincinnati Reds, and the only place you could find their offense tonight would have been on the side of a milk carton.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on a show. It has been a rough time to be a Cleveland Guardians fan, and I appreciate each and every one of our everydayers for joining us today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, to talk about. We got a game to talk about. Let's talk about the management question, as that is coming up a lot in the comments, and let's talk a little College World Series. I am Jeff Ellis, solo hosting today. One of the first hosts Locked On brought on to talk about baseball. Before that, I was a longtime draft and prospect analyst nationally at Scout and 24/7. I want to take a moment and say thank you to Monarch Money and say this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Here at Locked On Guardians, we have you covered from the majors to the minors to the draft and everything in between. We're going to hit on almost all of those areas on today's show, but specifically, we're going to talk about the game. It's a frustrating one. We're going to dive into the offense in general. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the choices Stephen Vogt has made. How much blame can you put on Stephen Vogt for some of the issues? We'll get into that debate. And then I have a whole big list of college players to pay attention to know, to watch in this year's College World Series. Let's now first dive into this game. So let's make this old school. 3 stars of the game for this one. I've got Slade Ciccone. I've got Gabby Arias for some defensive plays and that first hit, and I have Jose Ramirez defensive plays as well. 5 run scoring opportunities for the Guardians. That expected run is 1.6. 9 opportunities for the Reds, expected run of 3. 2 big plays. And I want to talk about this in general too, because right now the Cleveland Guardians are 2 fantastic plays in right field away from, having 2 more wins. 2 more wins would give them they'd be tied for the 3rd best record in the American League and the number 1 wild card. That's how much things can change. If you can't remember what I'm talking about, think back to when Cam Smith was supposed to play. He doesn't. Melton makes that catch that saves 2 runs. Jose probably has a triple if Jake Fraley, great defender for his career, dating back to LSU, we'll talk about in segment 3. He makes that diving catch, just barely even gets his glove out to catch it. If not, whole different story. 2 defensive plays might have defined our frustrations these last 2 weeks. I think our other frustration, if you're watching this game, the other point that really stands out is a big pivot point. 9th inning, Quan walks. No control. Abbott's struggling. He has never had a complete game. He ends up getting one, but he also gets help. It's a 3-0 count. It certainly looks like that 4th pitch was outside the zone. Savant maybe says it was inside. ML Game Day shows it outside. It looked high. Instead, Fry ends up, getting to a 3-2 count, swings away at a pitch. I mean, you got to swing in that situation, but he gets a double play, and it kind of ruins their opportunity because Jose comes up with a single next time as the next player in the game. And instead of having 2 players on base, we end up with this situation where, hey, he hits a single, and then after him, nothing happens. Santana gives us some hope there, right? I mean, that was for a second you thought at least this is going to get Jose home. Like this is going to be at least a double. Ends up just shy. I don't think Santana has actually hit everything is. I'd have to go look. I guess maybe he is just going out of his way to pull everything. Great article on Fangraphs about him. But again, that one missed call. And people, I had people being like, oh, you can't complain about balls and strikes. You can when it is a massive impact on the game. If that is a missed call, which according to Game Day, the MLB's official app, it is, then you have runners on 1st and 2nd. Jose single scores Stephen Kwan, and it's a whole different situation. They have to pull Abbott. There's all of a sudden probably runners at Fry doesn't run well, so probably still 1st and 2nd, but with nobody out. And I mean, if Santana does the same thing, then you get 1 out there. But it really sets you up to be in a very good situation, but they're not. So a sliding catch it's a great play by Fraley. Like I said, that dude has been a great defender his whole career. And then the questionable call. Now, the other side of this is you can rightfully say the offense didn't show up. And that has been a problem throughout this year. I will say, I think you also have to give Andrew Abbott a ton of credit. The NL Pitcher of the Month for May. His last game in May, what was it? He had like a no-hitter or a one-hitter into the eighth. Dude's been dealing. This Cleveland team is not set up to attack lefties. I know Lane Thomas just came back and has the foot issue, so they couldn't have him start, but it also made them put a less ideal lineup out there. They had to be more patient. There was too many bad swings on first pitches. They let Abbott, as a guy who, does walk some dudes. He didn't really show any of those command issues until the ninth and ended up with just one total walk. It's frustrating right now. It's super frustrating with this team. And I see a lot of complaints. One of the most common complaints I see is this is a AAA offense. Arbitrary endpoints. Nobody likes them, but I just said since the middle of May, because that's when we started to see some of these struggles. Cleveland's offense, in terms of runs created plus, the stat that takes everything, boils it down and puts it in one thing, 24th in baseball. Below them, St. Louis, Detroit, San Francisco, all potential playoff teams. By the way, since the middle of May, Cleveland beats Detroit in almost every offensive category. So for all it's still not a good offense, but I think we don't want to be too hyperbolic in the situation of where the offense is. Yes, a lot of it is Jose and Carlos right now doing a lot of the heavy lifting, with Quan popping in and out here and there. And I think compared to a year ago, it's one of those things we tend to forget about, is just how bad this offense got towards the end of July into August, until Lane Thomas got hot and really helped carry them. And in between, John Kenzie Noel had some huge moments for them. And I think that is what this team is really missing right now more than anything else. Seeing Ciccone pitch, I'm going to say it now, like trading Josh Naylor was a smart move. There's not been a huge drop off from Naylor to Carlos Santana. Ciccone is showing it. He looks great. 4 out of 5 starts have been fantastic. Pitching is so hard to acquire, and they got a draft pick. When you're looking at the big picture of it, it is a situation that not only did, they do a lateral move, they got pitching help, and it hurt the Mariners, who right now is a team that they're battling in the wild card. Ciccone was fantastic. And like I said, the offensive issues, last year Quan was on fire, and then he struggled to hit 200 in the second half. Josh Naylor's second half was miserable. It was a up and down year. This is how this offense is built. This is how this team is kind of going to be. Unfortunately, it's never going to be a powerhouse. I talked about the thing I did a few years ago. I took the metro areas by population and multiplied it by the average income of that area to kind of say, what is like the average kind of monetary impact per, region for teams. And Cleveland's was the second worst in baseball, behind the Reds. So this is a team that, I think they could potentially in the future, with different ownership that has like revenue streams outside of the team, raise the payroll some, but I don't see it being too much higher than, 10 to 15 million more than the Reds have. Now that would be nice, but I think the more important thing is to take the Braves approach and find ways to lock up your own talent and not try to swim with the Sharks in free agency, as that just does not seem to work. Offensively, the team is struggling. They need, Angel Martinez gave him a spark. Not so much right now. It's been pretty rough for him. Nolan Jones has had a few good games, but nothing consistent. I think what this team was planning, unfortunately, for when we talk about like the lack of offense, the players that were supposed to impact them offensively are Brito and DeLauter, and they're hurt. And with Brito and DeLauter's situation being hurt, that just eliminated what was supposed to be their internal offensive reinforcements. And then I think Kyle Manzardo's fall apart, let's be very honest, he has been bad since the first month of the season, is also a big issue. Like, they were counting on him, and one can make a case. We had an interesting person in the comments who kind of gave the scouting report of what we've seen. Like, the concern with Kafis is going to be the swing and miss and how well he can handle velocity. But and here's the other problem, right? We talked about that triple. Will Wilson, by the way, hit 2 home runs tonight in AAA. So it's so hard to really know anything based off of AAA performance anymore. But I think, you give Manzardo the rest of this month, but I think by the time July hits, if he is doing what he did last month, you really got to consider a demotion and a move for Kafis and see if Kafis can be that guy, if he can get hot. Noel got hot, and it's been a struggle since. Like, you don't need, I talked about this earlier, you don't need Mr. Right, you just need Mr. Right now. We are going to come back and talk about A little more on offense and Stephen Vogt on today's Locked On Guardians. Ever check into your banking account and wonder, where'd my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. I know as a parent, they're just great little money vacuums, suctions, great ways to lose your money and not realize. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It's just nice to be able to look at everything and see kind of like, oh, hey, you want to be tracking to see what you're spending on, make sure you're spending in the right ways, and make sure like, hey, we all have to budget for fun. We all have to budget for things to help our mental well-being. Monarch Money is going to make sure though that you're using that correctly. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thank you for coming back, rejoining us here. So let's do a quick summation. Offense has been bad. It was pitiful against Andrew Abbott, though a lot of teams have been. It is not the worst in all time. It is not the worst in the league. It's over the last month, not even the worst in their own division. It's not even the second worst in their own division. There's ways for improvement. Like I said, I think the bigger bugaboo than anything else is just the hurt players. Lane Thomas had a great game, but he's been hurt with multiple injuries this year. DeLauder, Brito, all those things are coming back to haunt this team right now. And again, I don't need Mr. Right. I need Mr. Right now. Start experimenting. Try things out. Rodriguez didn't have the worst game. That's a long swing, but he got to second base, which is more than like most guys in this game could have said. Sure, it was thanks to errors, but hey, you take what you can get. A frustrating game and a frustrating offense for sure, but it is not the end of the world. Again, 2 catches away from third best record in the American League right now. So it's not ideal, but don't give up. So Stephen Vogt has been a hot topic of conversation across the fandom right now. And a lot of people are just tired. They're looking for anything. They're looking for anything to get mad about right now. They're looking at, reasons why the team isn't as successful. And let's be very honest. A year ago, Stephen Vogt got to be to manage on easy mode. His team jumped out to a big lead. They kept it basically the whole year. There were not a whole lot of points where you were afraid you were going to, they tied the Twins for like a game. Was that what it was? And then everything, he got to a huge league. He had the ultimate security blanket in a bullpen that never imploded. In today's game, that bullpen gave us some scary moments, but it ended up doing its job. A year ago, that bullpen was historically good. That wasn't going to come back. The bullpen just could not keep up the rate it kept up at. And can I go on a slight tangent? What Tito did today was exactly what I wanted to see Vogt do, which is have your reliever up. Their reliever's up for Abbott if he really got into it. And then he didn't have to have the quick hook because the second hitter guy there situation, the double play. After that, he would have had someone ready to go. That's what I wanted to see this year. That's where I've had my issues with Vogt is kind of the pitching management. I know like in this game, though, instead of that, what a lot of fans fixated on is, and it's hard to argue this, that, okay, you got Rodriguez at second base, pinch run with Schneemann there because he runs better. And then Lane Thomas, who's a lefty killer, bring him in that situation instead of letting Jones hit, who, yeah, he had a good stretch. And then again, we can debate management, but then they didn't let him play at all. And he seems to have cooled off. And he did put a charge into that hit, just not enough of one. It wasn't a hit. It's a hit because he hit the ball, but he didn't collect a hit. So, there are these lots of little questionable decisions. I think one of the biggest things is we didn't really analyze Stephen Vogt a year ago because the team was in first place and the bullpen was so good. And, the starting pitching was so bad. And it was very easy to see, like, he just didn't have choices a year ago and he navigated them well. I don't know if he is a different manager. I don't think he is a worse manager this year. I think the problem right now is it's hard mode because the team is more inconsistent. They, a year ago at this time, you had David Fry making a case to be an all-star. They don't have that hitter in the lineup who's doing that outside of their core three. They have not had the guys kind of, Freeman started out the hot guy, then it went to Fry. Like I said, then we got to Thomas eventually and Noel in there too. They kind of had that whole where you still had, but the core was up and down. I talked about what Quan and Naylor struggles. So, yeah, if we look at the individual moments in the game, we can point out that there's been some more questionable choices this year. Some of the moments where he goes with things I don't always get or understand. He's a second-year manager, and there is always that feeling, for some people I've talked to around the league, that not having the managerial experience in the minors leads to some of those issues. Going right from a bullpen to the main job. Yeah, I mean, when your team is struggling, I think they're 1-8 in their last 9. It's going to come back on the manager, and everything's going to get, not magnetized, magnified. Wrong scientific term here. Everything's going to get magnified in terms of your choices and what you do. And I have a hard time faulting anyone who felt like he made a wrong call in this game in an important situation. When you got a runner on second and 2 outs and arguably your best choice as a hitter, you instead choose to pinch run with, and it's a guy who just came back from plantar fasciitis who wasn't playing in the game because he's had foot issues, and you're going to why are you going to the guy with foot issues to run when he's your best hitter against lefties? I know he's been inconsistent this year, but historically has been your best hitter against. And that's where I have my issue, where I just don't understand. I don't understand why he went out and made the choices he made in particular. There are definitely points this year where it's not as logical. And yeah, I'm just kind of curious to see. I know it's kind of a whole approach with coaching too. We probably have to sit back and talk about how much does he delegate? How much does he give? Because it feels like it's not always just the one person there. It feels like it is a whole team approach. So yeah, Stephen Vogt, I understand why people are questioning him. I still think he's fine. I'm not really ready to throw, the baby out with the bathwater, as it were. This is the time we're going to get the big knee-jerk reactions. This is a rough stretch. We didn't have a stretch like this a year ago. They're having it now in terms of, the record and what's going on. Hopefully they're going to have a better performance tomorrow. They loaded up on lefties, but at the same time, I mean, they really should have won Monday's game, but they played one of the sloppiest games they played in a long time, and that was extremely frustrating. The other side of today's game, not sloppy. They played extremely well. They made a lot of great defensive plays. The Reds just made some spectacular plays. And that's the other thing, too. For as much as we want to rail against the offense, they faced a tough pitcher. The catches in the outfield, 2 extra base hits were taken away from him in this one. Every day, Dave Wendell, I know you're a big Logan Allen fan. I don't have as much faith, but you got Allen versus Nick Lodolo. Lodolo has been really inconsistent throughout the course of his career. They got to take care of business tomorrow. They can't lose all 6 games to the Reds, a team that is struggling to be 500, because, I mean, heck, you lose tomorrow, you are a game over 500 yourself, and you've completely kind of gone through and messed with, you've blown that lead you built up. You've gone through that cushion. Lodolo has been solid this year. He does not walk guys, which has been one of the things. He's a little home run prone, but he also doesn't strike guys out. Fun fact about Andrew Abbott before we go to break: in his first 10 starts, he's already beat his WAR from a year ago. That's how good that dude has been. Guardians, it's hard right now. It's hard to talk about them. There's a high level of negativity. I'm just trying to give you a reason for hope. We all need reasons for hope. Hope always springs eternal in the draft. Cleveland is a draft town. When we come back, we're going to talk about the College World Series. Who are the guys you need to know? And who are some local kids who are out there? We'll get into all of that in the last segment on today's Locked On Guardians. Get the supplies you need at a site made for skilled traders. Supply House. Whether you're... I messed that one up there. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. I have an HVAC right over here. It's always shutting itself off. It's always turning itself off. Need to get filters, things like that? Supply House, right there. 5% off your first order. It's nice and easy like that. They have everything you need at the prices you want. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros. Now, it's not just for trade pros, it's for everyone. But for those trade pros in particular, looking for the extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. It's always fun when we have a solo show and I have to try to navigate everything slowly. I got to get back to using the pause feature more. Make sure you check out MLB Game Night. We have you covered every single game. It's a great way to keep up on what's going around baseball over on MLB Game Night. Check out the Insiders program too if you are so inclined. It is Justin is mostly managing it right now. He was probably texting even from the concert he is at tonight, frustrated with today's performance. Let's talk a little College World Series in segment 3 here. There are 8 teams left. I'm not going to talk about Murray State. I really don't have a lot of knowledge of Murray State. I got to be completely honest with you. Not a team I've spent a lot of time on. Let's start with Coastal Carolina because, as happenstance has it, my good friend Taylor Blake Ward, as well as Baseball America, had Caden Bodine going to the Cleveland Guardians in their latest mock draft. Bodine is the catcher there. He has twice as many walks to strikeouts. He had a very strong cape. He's had a lot of doubles this year. He runs well for a catcher. I think he can be like an average defensive catcher. I am just not sure that he is more than Ty Freeman as a catcher. Like, he's kind of their old profile of hitter where, the exit velocities are not great for him. And I don't know if there's going to be, enough in that overall profile to make him a player that's going to be enticing. So yes, I love Taylor, good friend. Baseball America, Carlos does a fantastic job. Caden Bodine, he makes sense. Cape performance, they've gone with some smaller school guys in the past, but looking at him overall, I think kind of the lack of ceiling is one of those things where they've moved away from that. He would have been a perfect guy 2-3 years ago. And the thing about those drafts from 2-3 years ago is they were really, really unproductive. So they've kind of moved on from that particular approach. I was just going to pull up here very quickly his, apparently break my keyboard while I'm at it. I was going to pull up his exit velocities. Yeah, a 103.8 is pretty low. That's one of the lowest. I think that's a top 5 or so lowest in the draftable college baseball. Oh, it's not. I guess it's more like top 10 lowest. But yeah, I just don't see a lot of pathways for him to be an impact overall player. Jacob Morrison is a pitcher there who's 6'8". I get nervous about anyone that big because mechanics are hard to repeat, but he was fantastic for him all year. So when he's on the mound, he is the guy to check out. Arizona, Mason White is the infielder who had a bunch of home runs, but was not good on the Cape. Brendan Summerhill is, of course, their big name prospect. I was complaining about the exit velocities for Bodine. Summerhills are even worse. Summerhill and Bodine are very similar in regards of great Cape performers, great, don't chase. They don't miss in the zone. Don't really have a lot of power. Some thought that Summerhill could be a center fielder, so up the middle types. My one thing is Summerhill is playing in Arizona. Arizona, actually, there's a slight change. Guys can hit for higher exit velocities when they play in certain environments. Arizona is one of them. We talked about that in spring training. So the fact he is so low while playing there is an issue. Aaron Walton is a transfer who had some fun numbers out there as well. I kind of got to fly through because the bottom 3 here are going to be huge. UCLA, listen, I love Rock Chalowski. I think he's number 1 on my board for next year as of right now. Kind of hedge my bet. I haven't done enough on it yet. That team in general, I didn't spend a lot of time on either. It was just not a team that ever really jumped out at me. Didn't have a lot of guys when I was watching the Big Ten. So UCLA, I'll kind of blast through. And Louisville, Patrick Forbes, good Cape data, perform well. Kind of a two-pitch guy, but I got to be honest, like every pitcher in college baseball this year, there's a lot of great ones, but they're all two-pitch guys. Most of them, once they get drafted, you're hoping the team, it's just a thing anymore. Like Cleveland adds a cutter, some teams add a sinker. I think we're going to see a lot of that, but Forbes is in that first round group. Garrett Pike is a local kid, went to Anthony Wayne High School, spent the last 3 years at Toledo, and was great there. He's been kind of so-so. He's been fine. But nothing that jumps out. And then Matt Klein, catcher. You always got to pay attention to a Louisville catcher. That's the rules. I don't write them. Justin wrote them. So I kind of rushed through the other ones because it is very clear that Arkansas and LSU are kind of the talent spots in this year's draft. Cleveland is 100% going to draft Gage Wood. He is young for the class. He is an SEC performer. He had good Cape data. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He misses bats, and he's had a history of shoulder issues. He only pitched 28 innings this year because of that. History of that dating back to high school. So Gage Wood, you are a Cleveland Guardian. Second round, Gage Wood. Mark it in ink. Also on that team, Zach Root. We'll go higher. The another pitcher for them. Logan Maxwell is a local kid on that team who had a good performance this year. Went to TCU for his first 3 years. Relatively local. He went to Shawnee High School in Lima, Ohio, but still an Ohio kid. So shout out there. Brent Erdale has some nice exit velocities, stole some bases, but he is not fast. I kind of like his data. Another Australian kid, a transfer. That's going to be a common theme throughout. Charles Duvallin is another transfer who does a bit of everything. He was fine in the Cape, not spectacular, but solid. Has had some first round talk. I'm a little nonplussed on him. I don't like the guys who are kind of 50s across the board, unless they're elite defenders, and I don't see that with him. And then Wihei Aloha, another transfer, Sacramento State. Here's the thing. I have a hard, fast line, and that is you cannot have a K rate over 20%. The success rate for those guys is very, very poor. He is a little bit over that line. Now, he was also well over that line last year in the Cape. He had a good performance in the Cape. He had a good performance in college. That 20% K line is kind of my line in the sand where I'm not going to give you a top 25 grade because the risk is too high. So Wihei Aloha does a lot of things, but there's some power, some pop. There's some good data with him, but there's also a lot of not so good. I was trying to see if I could very quickly. I should just do a search for his name. It can't be anything that is, it's pretty distinctive, right? But yeah, and of course, then I don't find it right away here. I'm going to pause so I can do this correct because I know we had someone ask about him. His zone whiff isn't great. His chase isn't great. He does barrel the ball well. He does have nice exit velocities, and his launch angle is in the solid range. So he's going to have a ton of swing and miss, and that kind of puts me out on him. And now that we've talked about Arkansas, LSU has two guys that are identical in Jared Jones and Ethan Frey, both huge hulking behemoths, 6'5", 6'6". Both were catchers in high school. Jones was definitely more productive than Frey has been in college. Frey really struggled to even get on the diamond his first 2 years. That K rate line, they're well over it. Interesting players, a lot of fun to watch. Just guys who are not quite for me. Daniel Dickinson was a guy who won mock at the start of the year. I don't remember who had going to the Guardians. He's probably going to be more of a second or third rounder. Solid performer, another transfer. And then pitching wise, Iacin, Cade Anderson, and Chase Shore are kind of the three big names to know. Anderson will be long gone. Iacin, I like a lot. I got to be honest. He's a guy who kind of keep your eye on, but whoever's starting is going to be good. And then Zach Cowan is another transfer from Wofford who had some good numbers, who kind of split the closer role for them. And I'm gonna Steve Milliam. Good numbers at every level, hit for some power, excellent defender. He's small. I like him a lot. I think he is a bit underrated. I don't see a lot of holes in the game. I see a lot of ways that he can be productive. He is a guy who stood out for me. I brought him up on the show, though. People who are everydayers know all about me and my interest in Steve Dyslexic. I have multiple pronunciations in my head for him right now, and I'm going to get them all wrong. Milam. But yeah, it's an interesting College World Series. You know, we don't have some of the heavy hitter I mean, listen, LSU is a heavy hitter program. UCLA in the past was. Arkansas has been there. But we're kind of used to seeing the Tennessees and the Wakes in those. And, Georgia has kind of been on the rise steadily. This was not their strongest year. It does feel like, LSU and Arkansas are the teams to watch. And those are the teams I will be paying the most attention to. I will be rooting for Murray State, though, because what a story. I hope you've enjoyed the stories today all over the place. You got to see my ADD mind at work in a solo show, missing some of the timing notes, having some repetition. So thank you all. I really mean it to everyone who hopped in, joined, watched, and listened. After a loss, we just don't always get the numbers we want. And I know there are people who definitely prefer Justin to me. So I appreciate everyone who joined me here today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to rate and review, download every day, hit that thumbs up. In the comments below, let's do something fun. What is your favorite or most interesting thing you see on my back wall? I've got weird pop figures. I've got the bobblehead from a year ago. I got stadiums. I've got an arcade cabinet. I have a board game. What do you think is the most interesting thing? And I will be sure to engage in those comments and get further explanations about why everything made the spots they did. Thank you all for joining me, and go Guardians, go. Oh, I gotta do the outro video. See, people, ADD mind at work. You're getting to see it all here. End of the school year. Thank you all. Remember to rate and review, and go Guardians, go.